It was really hard to narrow down what I was going to talk about today because I have so many thoughts about motherhood that I would love to share. But in the interest of time, I'm going to share just this one video just to get out of my system and then turn to what I'm actually going to talk about. So Alan, when you're ready.
I did the cooking and the cleaning and the groceries and the laundry, fed the cat and the dog, and someone stole my coffee. Got a gift for your mother that you probably won't like. Paid a bill, wiped her butt, broke up a couple fights. Then I just about lost my mind, cause we both took the kids to the park. And someone said to you, you are such a good dad. You are such a good dad. I woke at 5 a.m. to screaming in the hallway. There was barf in the bed, so another load of laundry. Our kid was crying, so we talked about our feelings. You were sleeping, that's cool. But then you got up and your mom came over and she said, you are such a good dad. You are such a good dad, such a good dad. I did the bath time, story time, the pee time, the snack time. I said go to bed just about a million times. Then I sat down to write this song and you said, did you notice I mowed the lawn? You are such a good dad. You are such a good dad, such a good dad. You are such a good dad. Oh, such a good dad.
Thank you for indulging me. It is really hard to be a mom. There is so much pressure and judgment and invisible labor. But momming and parenting in general is a really important job because we are raising the next generation of adults who will make decisions about what kind of world we will live in. And isn't it every liberal mom's goal to raise a boy who knows how to be sensitive and a girl who can be assertive? According to Dr. Becky, we accomplish that through the same method, letting them have feelings. It all begins with attachment. When babies are born, they are completely dependent upon their caregivers to survive, and they come out only about 25% wired. A lot of that wiring consists of how to eat, sleep, and poop. But a key component from birth is that we are all wired for survival. And that means we are wired to pay a lot of attention to things that keep our caregivers close and things that make our caregivers become distant. By about the age of 3, 75% of that wiring is done. When you see a 3-year-old, a lot of the changes that happen between ages 0 and 3 are obvious, like the walking and the talking. But I'm going to talk about our emotional wiring. Most of us have very few memories from when we were 1 or 2 or 3, but our bodies remember, with that automatic circuitry that developed during that time. When a baby is born, they are just a bundle of needs and wants with no filter. Hungry? Cry. Hot? Cry. Poopy diaper? Cry. But as they develop, they start to learn that actions have consequences and things they do affect the world around them. So they notice what makes their caregivers get distant and what makes them get closer, because after all, we are wired for survival, and at age 3, we are still dependent upon adults to survive, so we need to keep them close. According to Dr. Becky, tantrums and other meltdowns are not bad behaviors that need to be corrected. Instead, when a child is acting out, it is a sign that their emotions have overwhelmed their brain's capacity to deal, and those are the times when kids need us the most. Our reaction to the bad behavior is important because it sets the wiring for how a child will deal with those kinds of emotions in the future. Kids pay close attention to what gets them love and attention and understanding and affection, and what gets them rejected, punished, and left alone. These lessons impact our development because we quickly begin to embrace whatever gets us love and affection and shut down and label as bad any parts that get rejected, criticized, or invalidated. And yet these bad feelings don't just disappear. Just like how matter is not created or destroyed, it just changes form. A boy doesn't stop being sad just because he's not allowed to cry. The sadness presents as something else. Or Dr. Becky posits this scenario. When I want more dessert, Mom gets mad, and that makes me less safe. So I must suppress the desire for dessert. And it starts with suppressing a desire for dessert, but then leads to, or can lead, to suppressing other desires in order to keep Mom happy. And over time, the pattern becomes ingrained that it is important to suppress desires to keep love. And in our capitalist society, there are plenty of people willing to rush in and tell us what we are supposed to desire when we don't know it for ourselves. When a child is upset, our job as parents is not to get them to happy as quickly as possible. It is instead to help them understand their feelings and place them into context. Big feelings are scary to kids, and when kids are left to make sense of a scary situation on their own, they usually rely on methods that give them control, because a world that is out of their control is scary. Those methods are self-blame and self-doubt. Dr. Becky describes that self-blame looks like, I must have done something to cause this. I'm bad. I'm too much. And self-doubt looks like, I must have misunderstood the tension around me. I am not such a good feeler of things. If something really was wrong, my parents would explain it to me. And over time, this becomes the automatic circuitry that pops up whenever they are in a similar situation. This extends to when grown-ups are sad or mad or worried or feel some kind of tension. It doesn't help to try to hide these feelings from kids, to deny that anything is wrong. Our kids cannot learn to regulate a feeling that we, the adults, try to avoid or shut down in them or in us. They pick up on the weird vibes, and without help in understanding what is going on, we are leaving it to them to make sense of what is going on, often resulting in thinking that it is their fault. If we confirm our children's perceptions of the weirdness, which can be as simple as saying, yes, I'm sad right now because I'm missing Grandma, or I'm frustrated because I thought we had milk, but now we're out and I was just at the store. Doing this sets them up to recognize when things don't feel right later, and it will empower them to trust themselves enough to speak up. And remember that kids often don't have the language to describe what they are feeling, and they need to learn that vocabulary. I was listening to an interview with Bishop Buddy, who led the prayer service on Inauguration Day. She was asked about learning to be brave, and this part of her answer stood out to me. She said, we know that something's not right around us, and it's being treated as normal. When things are being normalized, we need some kind of moral compass that says, you know what, that is just not right. And we teach our children with stories like the emperor has no clothes. I mean, is anybody going to say that this guy has no clothes on? Is anybody going to do something? We want to preserve our children's innate sense of what is wrong and what is right. Now, this doesn't mean that we have to give in whenever our kids have big feelings. Although, yes, sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do to get out the door. For those of you who know about Ellen Sattler's division of labor with feeding, there's also a division of labor with parenting. It is the parent's job to set boundaries, and it is the child's job to have feelings about those boundaries. And those feelings, while they may be inconvenient or uncomfortable for the parent, are not bad. Our job is to name the feeling for the kid and let it play out while still holding that boundary. Teach them how to tolerate that feeling of distress. I'm going to take a break now, and Allison is going to read you some words from Dr. Becky herself.
Hi, I'm Allison Meinsberg, she, her. When shame goes unchecked. When we're not able to detect and reduce shame, when we let it fester in our children, there are likely to be long-term effects. Plenty of modern parents know these effects firsthand because our parents' generation was, and this is a generalization, less focused than we are on pinpointing the feelings underneath the behavior. For many of us, shame is wired into our bodies. It essentially attached itself to the parts of ourselves that were not embraced by our parents. Then, when it suddenly felt safer and even encouraged to behave in ways that may have been discouraged when we were young, expressing our controversial opinions or delivering a firm no, or sharing our emotions so we can allow other people to connect with us, the shame feeling remained, leading us to feel like we were stuck at age 3 or 8 or whatever age these behaviors developed in the first place. Now, instead of adapting those behaviors in a mature way, we avoid them or feel anxious about them. Let's say you grew up in a home that assigned a lot of value to being strong, which you now know really just means suppressing your emotions. Maybe you remember your parents saying things like, "You're such a crybaby," or "You're such a downer," or "No one wants to be around you when you're in such a mood." The family ethos was pull yourself up by your bootstraps, put on a smile. So what happened to the part of you that sometimes feels vulnerable or sad or worried? Well, that part learned that it must not surface. It was essentially told, "You're bad, you're dangerous, safety means connection with others, and you threaten this closeness. Keep yourself far away for my sake." This is shame. Of course, the idea that this part of you threatens attachment and leads to aloneness isn't actually true in the greater world. You can have emotions and still make strong connections. But it was true in your family in the time you were wiring your body for survival. These old habits die hard. Fast forward a few decades, you're married now and you're stressed at your job. Your boss is constantly berating you, you're worried about being fired, you're always on edge. There's a part of you that wants to cry, wants to open up to your partner, wants to share your awful experiences so you can get support. And yet this lesson from childhood lurks beneath the surface, subconsciously dictating your actions. Support, you think you'll get support for having your vulnerability and anxiety surface? These are the things that threaten relationships, not strengthen them. Push these feelings away for your own protection. And so you don't go to your partner or you don't go to a friend. Instead, the feelings build up until they emerge as increased reactivity, frustration, and anger. Or maybe they lead you to withdraw and shut down, or worse. Perhaps you turn to alcohol to turn these feelings off and push them away. You may even have a partner who says, "I can tell something doesn't feel good. Talk to me. Let me in." But still, your body sends the message, "I won't fall for that. I know better. Let me in. These experiences will shut me out." Just like with our children, shame for adults is an obstacle to positive change and growth. Our shame impacts how we form and maintain intimate relationships, how we parent, and how we react to difficult moments with our kids. So as you work on developing your ability to detect and reduce shame in your kids, take a moment to turn that reflection onto yourself. What parts of you did you have to learn to put away? How does this impact you now? How does your child trigger the shutdown response in you? What parts of you still to this day need recognition, compassion, and permission to exist?
So now that I've shared parts of Dr. Becky's theory of parenting, just a little, there's way more in the book, I have some thoughts. A lot of this feels true to me, but my main reaction when reading this book is anger. And secondarily, a sense of failure. Now I've totally messed up my kids already. Sorry, Lils. The second part, the feeling of failure, is addressed by Dr. Becky. She notes first that these patterns don't develop from just the occasional slip-up. These are developed over a period of time from being exposed to this type of behavior repeatedly. And she says that we can always be rewired. Humans are constantly rewiring themselves. The adage that you can't teach an old dog new tricks isn't true. And you can always start over with your kids. And that looks different depending upon their age. And it might require you saying, "I'm sorry for how I acted when you were younger. I want to change." But you can't force anyone to accept your apology. That sounds easy enough-ish. But the anger. The anger comes from how demanding this style of parenting is. Circling back to the video we watched before, there are so many things that moms are expected to do. And now we have to add one more thing to our plate? In Dr. Becky's book, there is no community chapter. There is no chapter about how there are all of these aunties in the world, ready and willing to take on this emotional labor. But we need a community because moms are already asked to do too much. That is why church is important to me. It is a community of people who share my values and who I hope will help me teach my children that they are important to the world, that they have a place here, and that their feelings matter. And Dr. Becky's basic premise fits in with Unitarian Universalism. Her underlying theory is that we are all good inside. This relates to the idea from maternal family systems that every person has a core self that consists of curiosity, compassion, calm, clarity, courage, confidence, creativity, and connectedness. If you imagine a toddler, you can think of these examples of all of these characteristics that occur naturally. Toddlers love to help. Toddlers are constantly exploring the world around them. I'm not so sure about the calm part, but you can see their courage in learning new things. And yet, over time, people start to hide away parts of their core selves to stay safe. You can imagine scenarios in which it is not safe to be curious. It is not safe to show compassion. It is not safe to show confidence. It is not safe to be creative. And yet, that core self is still inside. And so Dr. Becky says over and over again, when your child is exhibiting bad behavior, ask yourself, why is my kid, who is good inside, acting like this? To try to get at the underlying reason motivating the behavior. And it's okay to tell your kid, you are a good kid having a hard time, which doesn't excuse them from repairing any harm their behavior caused, but reinforces that they are not bad. And this concept extends to each one of us. Looking back at all the times I messed up as a parent, as a daughter, and as a friend, yelling when I shouldn't have, saying something hurtful. I am a good person who is having a hard time. And this concept extends to the person next to you. When someone acts like a jerk, is your first reaction to think they are a horrible person or that they are a good person having a hard time? When someone on the church board or committee says or does something that offends you, do you assume good intentions? Or do you say, there goes Megan again, doing whatever she wants without listening to others? What would it look like for you when you have conflict with someone? Stop, take a breath, and assume good intentions. Because after all, we are Unitarian Universalists. The Universalist part means that we believe that everybody is saved, whatever saved means to you. The roots of Universalism in the United States began in direct contradiction to the Calvinism of the time that believed in predestination. At birth, it was destined whether you would go to heaven or hell. But Universalism rejected that. All souls would go to heaven, though there was debate about how long the sinful would be tortured before getting there. What does Universalism mean to you? Is it big enough to encompass the idea that everyone is good inside? I struggle with this. It is easy to see the goodness in babies. And yet, as a mom, I have seen over time these inflection points in my kids' lives that have wounded them, that have caused them to hide a part of themselves away. It is heartbreaking to watch this happen and to know that it was right for your child to hide that part because it wasn't safe. It is even more heartbreaking to see that danger pass, but that part is still hidden, not realizing that it is safe to come out now. And so for adults, with a lifetime of little hurts built up, Is it safe to assume that they are good inside? What would it be like to go through the world assuming good intentions of everyone around you? Is that safe? Does our religion demand it anyway? But getting back to raising children. My other fear when reading this book is whether it is safe to raise my children like this. Here's a statement from Dr. Becky's book on the chapter on consent. I am in charge of my body. I am in charge of my body's boundaries. I am in charge of who touches me, for how long, and at what times. I can like something one day and not want it another day. I can be comfortable touching some people and not others. I am the only person who can make these decisions. Is it right to teach this to Lily at a time when her right to bodily autonomy is under attack? I've seen Mad Men. I'm still angry at the ways in which the men just assumed a right to the women's bodies around them. At the casual sexual harassment, which wasn't really sexual harassment because that legal concept didn't even exist at the time. When I read about the manosphere today, I wonder if I need to be teaching Michael not to listen to his feelings, but instead how to disassociate so he can take a punch without crying. What kind of society will win out, and how do I best prepare my kids? I have no idea. But I'm going to keep doing the best that I can to teach them to listen to their feelings and trust in those feelings, even if the world doesn't want them to. No matter what happens in the world around them, I want them to see the emperor has no clothes and not be convinced otherwise, no matter what it says on the news. And also, I want to do this for me. My kids are awesome. It does not feel good to yell at them. It does not feel good to force my will on them by virtue of my power over them. It feels good to see them being curious, compassionate, calm, courageous, confident, creative, and connected. And so I will do what I can, making many, many mistakes along the way, to let them have access to those core qualities. And I hope that each one of you will help me and every other mother in this congregation build such a world. And now it is time for the offering.